to Awaken the Rebel. What's up, y'all? Shereen Thor here. Wanted to have a little convo with my amazing bestie, Christina Dunbar, about the state of affairs right now. COVID-19 has literally taken over our entire lives, and everyone's feeling it. So, Christina, thank you for being here.
I love you.
I love you. Truly, y'all, this conversation, first of all, it's probably going to be weird because it's like 8 o'clock at night and we're both so freaking tired. But let's be honest, I have my kids 24/7 now. So like, when the hell else am I going to have a recording where there isn't a 3-year-old screaming in the background? But really, this is one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation with you, Christina, is because so many people are feeling what I'm feeling right now, which is, oh my gosh, like my routine is so turned up. My life is turned up. The world, it feels like end of days. Like I almost wish I wouldn't have watched The Walking Dead so often because I feel like it's a freaking zombie apocalypse right now. And I'm going to be real, even though I'm like a coach and all these kinds of things, I'm not like the most woo-woo Zen girl, right? Like I don't have tons of like meditation skills. I'm not like a freaking yogi. All my outlets that I normally use, like going out, like walking, hiking, like out and about stuff, I now don't have. So I just know there's so many people feeling this and needing new ways to move energy, to process, to cope with this ridiculously insane pandemic that has changed everyone's life for the next foreseeable future.
Yes.
Help. SOS.
Help. Is this where I come in? Help.
Save us, Dunbar.
A little louder, please, and I'll be there. Oh my gosh. I'm feeling you. I'm such a feeling person. You saw the email I sent out a couple of days ago, which was really about, just to give some context, the perspective of being able to hold more than one point of view, which I think will lead into some of this anxious conversation. We're going to be talking about being anxious in the mind and the body. And I feel like this has really been serving me. That's why I want to share it. This idea that we can hold more than one viewpoint on what is actually going on, which includes the human body and feeling and being able to move and process emotion, which connects to our brain and our thoughts. And also being able to hold the spiritual lens or the more bird's eye view lens of like us going through a transformational phase and us being in this basically like this death cycle right now, which is an initiation, a rite of passage for us collectively and individually. So being able to hold that and to know that while also processing the very real human emotions that we have, because we are divine and we are human.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just been noticing that sometimes I'll see something that is more slanted to one point of view. And for me, that's what actually brings anxiety. If I'm too much in like, oh my God, this is amazing. We're in transformation right now. And this is where we're going to find our power. And this is like this beautiful rite of passage. Like that, just holding on to that gives me such anxiety. And just holding on to, oh my God, this is painful. People are dying. Not only are people dying, an idea of life is dying for many.
Mm-hmm.
And so just being in that human pain is also very anxiety driven for me. So being able to hold different things at once. So I wanted to start there. In terms of being able to move anxiety, obviously, I mean, I say this is not a new idea that emotion is energy in motion. Emotion is simply energy. So being able to move the energy is really important. And the first thing that I would suggest is not labeling the emotion as good or bad. I think that's very easy for us to do. We're taught to right away try to analyze what the emotion means. Like, oh my God, I'm feeling so much. This means that I'm not spiritual enough, or I'm not positive enough, or I shouldn't be feeling this right now, or this is going to take me down. And we right away start to kind of strategize how to get out of the feeling versus being with the sensations in the body. And so there's different ways to be with sensations. And I will say that for people that have had a lot of trauma, sometimes it's very difficult to be in the body. So, take what works for you, leave what doesn't. But for me, being in the body means, okay, if I'm feeling something, like let's take the feeling of anxiety or feeling my heart beat really fast. You can move that. You can dance, you can run, you can feel where in your body the emotion is actually coming from. So a tool that can be helpful is actually scanning the body, and instead of saying, I just feel anxiety. Okay, well, what does that actually mean? Scan your body and locate where you're feeling the most intense feeling. So it might be like, oh my gosh, my heart is beating really fast. For some people, that's anxiety. Or I'm feeling a lot of like almost like butterflies in my stomach, or my stomach is just feeling a lot. So being able to scan the body, I'm actually going to take you through a little process. That's okay?
Oh my God, let's do it. Yes.
Okay. So scanning the body, finding where you feel the most sensation, and then actually seeing if you can envision it as a color or a shape, and being with that color and that shape, and then taking that color and that shape and putting it out in front of you so you see it. So taking it out of your body and then putting it back in to where the sensation was going, and then taking it back out, and kind of toggling back and forth, 30 seconds to a minute where it's in the body, 30 seconds to a minute where it's out of the body. And that's it's a way to let the energy be there, and you'll find that it starts to transform as you do this exercise. It actually starts to change shape or color, or the feeling gets less intense. Sometimes it gets more intense, but typically when you allow a feeling to be felt, it's about 90 seconds of real intensity, and then it'll actually shift or change. And this is the same work I do with performers before we get on stage that are feeling a lot. It's like, instead of trying to repress it, can you actually let the emotion come out? So that's one tool to use for working with emotion. Should I give you more? I don't feel like I'm.
No, I love it. This is amazing. And it's actually good even just to hear you talk about it, because it's almost weirdly helping me process emotion just talking about it. And that was actually really one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast, is because like in my normal life right now, I have like a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I'm helping homeschooling them. And then also have my clients. When my 3-year-old's napping, I do some clients. And then I'm like trying to work on my new website revamp, like at 4 a.m. before they wake up. And there's just no time. Like I'm just, there's just no time to process. So just even talking through this or thinking about these things or hearing these things is already really helping me. So I'm hoping that it's also really going to help anyone listening right now. And then you also said something really interesting before we started recording about our society and how we're taught to control, not surrender. So I wanted to hear a little more about what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, we were just talking about how things are really falling apart for so many people, including me. My husband's job is all in-person events, so that income is gone. My work is in-person events, so there's just a lot of shifts happening for everybody, right? And this idea of how do we move through that? And basically, I was saying that our culture is really taught to control. The American dream is to climb the ladder and get as far as you can, and you can do it. You can do anything if you put your mind to it. And that's like a piece of creation. The other piece is that there are forces around us that are happening as well. And sometimes surrender is the most empowering thing, surrendering to what is happening, but not moving into despair. And I guess the difference for me is I was thinking about how my dad was dying, and I kept denying that was actually what was happening in my mind. I was like, no, he's going to be fine. He's going to make it. And it was so clear that the energy was happening. Like that wanted to happen. I don't even know how to explain that, but like, you know how certain things in life are already happening, they want to happen. There's a force that is occurring, and I was denying that force that was bigger than me. But when I was able to get to, this is actually happening, and the best thing I can do for my dad is to accept that's what is happening, and surrender to some of that energy that is unfolding, and be connected to that. It was a letting go, the grasp, the tight. I guess this is kind of the idea that manifestation has to feel like you're gripping so tight to control things, and that if you just grip tighter, that things will work out. And I'm saying in this conversation, like, what if we could let go of that grip? What would that feel like in our bodies? And things are changing, and we are in a grief cycle as a collective, and there are stages to grief. And so I know the first stage is like denial, right? So you don't want to surrender when you're in denial, but
dude,
yeah, that's a stage.
Is the next stage rage? Because I've spent the whole second week of quarantine in full on rage.
Yeah,
I think it's anger.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact steps.
I think it's like denial, like anger, sadness. I'm not totally
sadness, grief,
it up,
acceptance.
But like, yeah, girl. I mean, the first week, I think I was in denial. The first week I was like, I'm going to cancel all my clients this week. I'm going to pretend it's an early spring break. Like, I was just like, whatever. Like, I'm just going to go with this flow. Can't do anything about it. It's fine. It's only a week. Did that. Then when I realized it wasn't only a week, and I think like you and I and some girlfriends got on that Zoom call, and I was like going to Costco, that was the day that I realized this is not only a week. This is actually going to go for I don't know how long. And I was literally like choking with like rage and despair at the same time. And then like the whole next week of my life, I was in and out of like, hey man, everything's cool. We got this. I am angry. Like it was just like so bipolar. And then this week, you know, I've definitely like reached more of a groove. Like I'm certainly not as ragey anymore, though I am like, oh man, this is going to be a marathon, and just kind of staring down the barrel of like months of figuring out how to go back to being a stay-at-home mom and an entrepreneur. And like, that's why I wanted to have this podcast, because I'm like, whoa, like life is just going to be so full on for I don't know how long, and like when will there be time to process? How do I quickly process in the few moments I do have, you know? So anyway, it's just really good to talk to you about all this stuff, because
well, we're all like collectively in this question mark. This is unprecedented. There is no right way to do this. There are so many variables for what is happening. So I feel like the deeper we can connect to the divine force and the mystery of it all, and let that be part of the process, do what you can do, take it step by step. I think use your intuition as much as possible right now, if you can. If you feel like that's something that you're connected to. I feel like moving your body and being in your body and letting emotion move helps to get back to that calm place, that intuitive place. Like I know for some people, nervous energy it's not helped by sitting and meditating. Like you might need to actually take a run first, and then move, sweat, and then you can chill, and then try to see if you can get into some meditation. But having that connection, being able to connect to something deeper, something greater, and having a trust in that, as well as using your own divine intuition step by step. Like there is for me right now, I'm not planning what's going to happen in 3 months or even 2 months or even 2 weeks, really. It's such a like intuitive animal like process where it's like step by intuitive step through the dark forest, sniffing out what is just my one next step.
I looked at the 5 stages of grief, by the way, while we were chatting.
Oh, awesome.
Denial.
What are they?
Denial's
Yes.
number 1. Did that. Check. Anger is number 2.
Okay. You were right.
Nailed it.
That's number 2. You're going in the right direction.
And then bargaining.
That's right. Okay.
And then depression, and then acceptance. So 5 stages.
All right.
Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance.
Right. Oh my gosh.
So crazy.
Ooh. Yeah. And letting them happen to you. I was told my husband the other day, because I just started crying. He's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Oh no, I'm fine." I'm like, spontaneous tears will be happening. And just that's okay.
I know, right? That's one of the nice things about you, is I feel like you really hold a powerful space for emotion in general. Like, you just are okay with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's welcomed to be processed, felt, and like moved through. And I think that's really special about you, because it's so, I mean, in our culture, in our society, in our families, in our friendships, you see it so quickly, like, no, it's okay, don't cry, everything's okay, shh. Like, everyone's just so quick to want to just stuff it down. And I think, for me, I stuff with emotion, I stuff my emotions with food. That's what I meant to say. I stuff with food. Like, we were just talking before, I'll just go straight for the chocolate. I've been totally comfort eating cookies and chocolate for 3 weeks now, and I have 3 pounds of extra weight to show for it, baby. So I certainly need, hopefully after this podcast, I'll have some new coping mechanisms. It's just ridiculous. But like, literally one of my best friends is like eating bean and cheese burritos every day, multiple times a day, because that's her comfort food. It's just so funny.
And I also feel like, how do we make certain things okay without going into shame around them? And, of course, there's a point where eating too much is just, it's just not healthy. But also, how do we make room for like those times where we just need a little bit of comfort and some goodness? I think there's I think we're all finding our way, and there's not one right way.
Well, that's exactly right, because that is so much of how I've kind of sort of tried to shift into fun, is like cooking for the family, like having fun cooking. We've had so many more like home cooked family meals where we all sit at the table together and we're all just focused on like spending quality time together. And then at the end, we like have a dessert. Like, it's like, we didn't used to do that. We weren't like so into dessert, but it's like, this is partially the way I'm kind of making this time more fun, more sweet, more like pleasurable, more like joy. Like, we're just like, we're just having fun. We're just having ice cream after dinner. Like, it's so great. I certainly don't want to get carried away and like become like, I don't know, 60 pounds overweight by the end of quarantine. But you're right. There is part of that is just finding joy and sweetness and like letting it be okay to just kind of, to not have everything be so tight and perfect. And like that grip you were talking about, like to not be like, I need to focus on my macros as I'm like running around the house, like stressed out because I'm trying to be skinny, when really it would probably be better for everyone, for us to just like kind of enjoy our time together. So but for everyone listening, you got to calibrate yourself. Like, you got to calibrate yourself. I don't know where everyone else is at who's listening, but I'm a person who I like love to have fun. I love to like eat. So like for me, it's like, yay, fun. And then to some degree, I need to like reel myself in, because I would literally gain like 20 to 40 pounds.
Yes, I hear you. And where you're at on the health spectrum, like I personally have a lot of health issues. I've had digestive issues. I have really taken myself out of the medical system, the traditional medical system, because that wasn't working for all of my physical pain. As a ambulance goes by here. And so I am like being really mindful of what I put in my body right now, because I know that I can get sick if I don't take care of that. So I, like you said, wherever you're at, and there's so many factors and variables of how to take care of yourself. People are dealing with a lot of different things. Yeah.
And I do want to, like, for everyone listening, I do want to support you. Like, I certainly don't want to be that person who's like, let's capitalize on the opportunity that is COVID-19. Like, I think there's like a weird sleaze factor there, and I'm like not into it. But I am into like creativity and like thinking out of the box and finding the silver lining and seeing where you as like an artist or an entrepreneur or a human can like pivot in a way where you can gracefully go where life is taking you. So that's part of that like sort of surrender energy you were talking about, like just like just pivot and just like go with it. Like I had a beach retreat and I canceled it, and I was about to go into like client acquisition mode and I canceled it, and like kind of going with the flow of life. But like other cool things are really opening up, and I'm getting a lot of ideas about how I want to move forward. Because one thing that became very clear in week 2, which was stage 2, rage, anger, and rage, was that, you know, I have been essentially being a stay-at-home mom for the last 5 years, doing my business on the side, and really couldn't wait to have my time and my days back to myself so that I could get back to my career and all the dreams I had to kind of like slow down on in order to do the mom thing. So to have 6 months of leeway and be so excited that my youngest went to preschool and like, you know, lose 20 pounds and do my book launch. But then out of nowhere, COVID-19 hits and I'm kind of back in this like stay-at-home mom mode. One thing that became very clear was I was actually really not okay with slowing down. Like I was so angry at the thought of slowing down because I've been slowed down for 5 years. Like I was like, no. Every time I think about slowing down, I become like an angry psycho bitch. So what's good is, you know, I'm just honoring that emotion. I'm like, yeah, I hear that, Shereen. Clearly that's not going to work for you right now. And you do have 2 little ones at home 24/7 now. Like, you know, you can't even really get help from the nanny, or, you know, you can't even really get help from your mom. And so for me, it's getting creative and figuring out, well, how am I going to continue to move forward creatively so that I don't have to be ragey and resentful about this, you know, and I can feel like life is still moving. It's just moving forward differently. It's just moving forward in a different way than I thought it would. And that has really made all the difference in terms of me coping and like not going crazy and not feeling sorry for myself and all those kinds of feelings that can naturally happen when you feel like things aren't going your way or things are out of your control. Like, I just want to encourage everyone listening, like, you're not powerless. You're not helpless. Certainly this shit is out of your control, but you're in control of your reaction and you're in control of your response and you're in control of the choices you make in your life. And so like, yeah, this is where it's fun to have like coaching conversations with people or just like creative conversations with people to support them in out of the box thinking to figure out like what direction do they want to go, and that'll really ultimately serve their highest good, you know?
Absolutely. And I think the more space, those of you that are listening, the more space you give yourself to move through this process, move through the grief process, and not try to quickly move into action if you're not quite there yet. Let yourself go through the process of falling apart if that's what you're actually feeling right now. And of course, watch for when that goes into really unhealthy behavior or unhealthy patterns, or you can feel like it's just pulling you in a way that is starting to feel really like taking you down. Although, you know, one of my favorite philosophers out there right now, Michael Meade, talks about how the soul is all about slowing down. It is going down. And it's not always being high and always being on. And I just say that because for me personally, I had to completely fall apart the first week this was going down and feel all the feels and go through that sort of grief cycle. And I am still spontaneously having some emotions, but I feel much more because I've let myself go through that earlier process and didn't try to control it. I feel now that my body is more free. The energy is back to, okay, pivoting or what I will do next. And I so agree with you, like creative action and having that inspired creative action be part of my day to day right now is very, very helpful. Yeah. But it's like, how do we get to that creative action place? And it's all of what we're talking about. It's feeling the feelings. It's moving your body. It's moving your emotions. It's journaling. It is really being intuitive.
Yeah.
And listening. And it's also okay to not know what you're going to do right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Will you tell us all, me and the collective who's listening, a little bit about reset? Because I love the idea of it. I feel like we need that right now. I feel like on accident, that's what like the coronavirus is making everyone do is like stop, slow down, reevaluate, like what's working, what's not. Are you even really happy with your life? Blah, blah, blah. But also it's so overwhelming that I love that you are creating something to help people process, reset, get clarity. So tell us a little bit about it. I know it's a 6-week program. I know it's virtual, but like, what is the purpose of it?
Mm-hmm. Well, this was my pivot because I was supposed to launch something else and online. It was like my first virtual online thing. And oh my gosh, you were with me with like our group of girls, our lady boss chicks, where we were talking about this. And I'm like, I can't, I think you were there. I was like, I can't do it. It doesn't feel right. It just feels so wrong. I just can't. Where every logical person was like, no, just do it. Like, this is the perfect timing. And I just couldn't, because while it's a wonderful, wonderful program, I was feeling like what you said, like we're in this like reset phase, and we're in this cocoon, and we're in this transformational phase. And I keep saying this has really been helpful for me. Like, I am the mush in the cocoon right now before I turn into the butterfly. I'm in that mush phase, and I want to be supported in being in the mush and seeing what comes through. And so reset is this, it just feels like the right thing to offer right now. And it's basically a virtual circle that is guided with specific questions. We have a theme each week that is specific to this transformational process that we're in, around what you're feeling, what you're releasing, what you're letting go of, what you're claiming, and digging in and asking those questions, but being in a group of women, being in sisterhood as we explore the answers. Mm-hmm. And basically what each woman is going to be doing is making something creative out of the answer that she receives.
Oh, that's so cool.
So it'll either be a visual or a vocal story. Like it could be poetry, a song, a monologue, a story, or it could be a painting or a drawing. And I'm really using the energy of creativity to, the language of soul speaks in symbolism. It doesn't speak in logical answers. And so it's a way to get a little bit deeper with what's actually coming up for you in this transformation, and to be seen and heard in a group of women, sharing your voice and sharing your soul's voice. And I was just reading something from Women Who Run with the Wolves, where the author was talking about how, for male psychology, it's very important in a rite of passage that things are hard and things are tough and things can even be painful. But for women, the rite of passage or the transformational passage, there are other archetypes that need to be included. So it's not just about it being really fucking hard. It's also about being loved and being nurtured during the process, to come through as a butterfly. And so I thought, this is the best way to nurture, is to be with other women and to be in smaller circles where we can really express and connect and be supported and be heard.
I love it. It's so good. And I just think it's so cool that you are going to be facilitating this experience where people get to be a little more intentional about processing what's going on, but making it mean something for their life, meaning like it's going to help you pivot in a new direction in your life versus like just having so much overwhelm or so much anxiety or being uncertain. Like, it sounds like it's really going to support people in getting further clarity on like who they are and where they're going. And yeah, it just sounds cool. I love the idea of creating something out of that too. That's neat.
Yeah, it's a container for the process.
That's great.
That is led and guided, and so that you're not left feeling all of this by yourself. And I just had a virtual circle because we transferred. My other program was in person, but obviously we couldn't do that. So I had a virtual circle with them last Saturday, and I was like, oh my God, this totally is so needed to be in community. And they felt so much clearer, lighter, expressed, like able to move forward
Mm-hmm.
after being in circle together. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, that's so cool. I'm really excited. And you and me and the conversations about this program were like one of the reasons I wanted to do this podcast, is because I was like, well, I need a reset. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't know how to process all this stuff. Help me. So thank you for your wisdom and your thoughts and your philosophy today. I do think this is what people need to be, like, just to be exploring, but also to just have even the space to like feel it all. I feel like that's something really special that you do, is you really hold that poetic space to feel it all. Like you said, not just the spiritual, not just the human, like every different layer of your onion is welcome here. And there's just something kind of healing in that,
Absolutely. And my whole thing is storytelling. And I feel like we are each writing our stories right now. We're in a time where we get to dig a little bit deeper. This is the beautiful part about crisis and chaos, is it really is a rebirthing. And there is a chance to take this opportunity and to really connect to what your soul is here for, and to write that story. And I think that story can be really difficult to write, and it could feel very lonely, or it could be supported. It could be nudged a little bit. It could be nurtured, right? Like, so I guess I'm talking about really being the author of our lives right now in a very mythical time. Like, come on, we're in this myth. Oh my God, shadow, dark, light. Like, oh, like, wow, all happening? The forces, right? And so, but our psyche lives in that place with stories, so we can be part of that right now. Yeah,
love that. You are the author of your life, y'all. What are you gonna write next?
Lots of possibilities, right?
Right. Okay, so if people want to find out more about you, about Reset, where should they go?
ChristinaDunbar.com/reset. And if you just want to like say hi to me, I'm on Instagram, Christina Dunbar.
Holla.
Holla, holla.
Thank you. This is amazing. I'm going to blast it everywhere, and I hope it helps people.
I hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we'll see you on the next one.
Peace.
Bye.